Hi, I'm Lorne Epstein with the Lorne Epstein Show, and if you're watching, that's cool because this is like our third live YouTube video cast. So remember to like, comment, share. Did I get that right, Afote?
And subscribe.
And subscribe. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Like all those things. Like I'm already asking you to do something. You just tuned in. Anyway, I'm Lorne Epstein. We're here at the UNLEAH conference in Paris, which is like the pinnacle conference for HR in Europe and also for the UNLEAH group.
In the world. Can I
In the
just say
world.
it's in the world.
In the world.
It's the largest gathering of senior HR people anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh well, that's cool. Even sure.
Senior level.
Senior
HR.
level.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So with me is China Gorman. Hi, China.
Hi, Lorne.
And China is an old friend for us. I mean, she's been fantastic. I've seen you in so many different domains. And right now you do work with UNLEAH. You run UNLEAH America, which
I
is
do.
happening in Vegas.
It is.
So I know we're going to do some plugs. So why don't we do the plugs first?
Okay.
So what do you have going on for UNLEAH?
Well, one of the things that we're really excited about is that we welcomed George Lorne to the American team, which is so exciting. He's so great
He is.
And so smart and is bringing enormous value to the planning for Vegas in May of next year. I'm just going to check my notes because I'm bad at dates. May 12th and 13th, and we're in a new venue. We're at the MGM Grand.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm really excited.
So that's the MGM Grand in America in Vegas, May 12th and 13th.
Yes.
So for all of you Americans.
And then next year in London on March 24th and 25th, we're back at the Excel London. And then a year from now on October 20th and 21st, we'll be back here in Paris.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. The City of Lights, and it's a beautiful city.
It is beautiful.
So we were talking earlier, I was mentioning to Mark that for whatever reason, we didn't get a lot of response from the women that we asked to be on shows. It's going to be all men except for yourself. And I thought we would talk about that. So, in 2 years ago, Alyssa Milano kind of kicked off the Me Too movement, the hashtag Me Too movement in the States, which brought to light criminal activities of a lot of famous people and a lot of not so famous people who are now infamous. And it's also changed dialogue. It's changed a lot of things. This year, I did a show with Johnny Taylor, head of SHRM, a woman from the National Women's Law Center. And the National Women's Law Center, that's the group that got the Me Too money, and they funded 3,500 cases of women who couldn't afford an attorney last year who had been sexually harassed. And then they had a woman on in that show who, when she was 18, was sexually harassed by a federal senator. And then she went off and got her Harvard Law degree, and now she's changing the rules in the House and the Senate so that they report on. And her name's Allie Cole. She's amazing. So, everything's changed. Everything has changed. And I think when you have that, and it's been a radical sea change, and you have men who want to say the right thing and do the right thing, and we don't know the lexicon, we don't know what to expect, and just examples, like I know a lot of guys will say the word girls, referring to females who are
Not girls.
Not girls, right? So I asked my wife this, and she said, well, you stop calling a female a girl when she graduates high school.
I think that's right.
You think that's right?
I think that's right.
So once a female is over 18, then they're a woman. She's a woman. Now, what other things should we know?
I want to go back to something you just said, that because of the Me Too movement, there is this big sea change. I'm not so sure there's a big sea change yet. I'll be honest. I'm a little pessimistic on that front. I don't know, honestly, that what's happened to the really famous people is making its way down into normal organizational life. Everybody's aware of the Me Too movement, but they think of Harvey Weinstein, they think of, really famous bad guys, right? And I don't know that it has seeped down into average-sized organizations doing, sort of normal work.
Sure.
I'm not so sure that a whole lot has changed. I think famous people have been impacted hugely,
Right.
Because their targets, their name is what they sell, right? And so attacks on them have both monetary payoffs but also reputational payoffs. I'm not so sure that the average workaday woman, the average who works in an organization where the average workaday man calls the women in the organization girls, acts inappropriately, tells obscene jokes, tries to appear. I don't have any evidence that that kind of give and take every day has been impacted.
Okay, so if you're watching, like, drop some evidence links down so that we can share. But so give me some instructions on, if I was a man 40 years ago when I was frozen and now I'm like reanimated, and you're like, China, how should I approach women? And I don't know anything other than what I knew that long ago.
I actually don't think this is so hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to change behavior.
Yes.
It's not hard to know what to do. It's not hard to understand that you just treat people with respect.
Right.
And when you're talking to a professional woman or a woman in the workplace who is actually a woman and not a girl, to call her a girl is insulting. Just as calling you a boy would be insulting, right?
And the word lady too, right?
Well,
so,
I'm not a fan of lady because I just am not a fan of lady.
Yeah,
it's better than girl.
That.
It's better than girl. There's probably some kind of gradation scale. Woman on one end or professional, girl, sort of on the other end. But I think if you've been frozen for 40 years and you're a man and you're just waking up and you're coming back into the world of work, I mean, it's not just the relationships between the sexes that have changed, right? Everything has changed.
Yeah.
But if you're focusing in on how do you communicate with people, not just women, with people, you treat them with respect. You treat them as worthy. You treat them not in a disparaging kind of way.
Sure.
And so you think about the language that you use. And so if you've been using disparaging language or belittling language, that means you have to think a little bit before you speak, and so maybe that's hard. But treating people with respect, that's not hard.
So maybe, because I know being married, what seems to work best for me is that I ask my wife what she wants, what she needs, kind of understand, do a little homework before maybe we have a certain conversation or we do a certain trip or something like that. Might that be appropriate work for me to talk to the women in my team or the women in my peers to be like, hey, how do you want to be referred to? If I'm talking about you or talking about women, to get a little bit of an education. And I think also maybe to build that relationship, to start building trust and to start building, just like, hey, I see you as a person, not just like
so I'll just tell
gender.
you my personal response to this.
Yeah.
It's just my own personal response. If I had a work colleague who brought all the women together and said, so...
No, I meant like one-on-one. Yeah, one-on-one.
Okay. So,
no. I meant like I come to you and say, China. No, like, hey, China.
I wouldn't recommend you get all the women together and say, so what do you want?
No.
No.
I'm saying like if you and I work, right, that would be intimidating. But if I became, hey, China, I know working to that. How would you like me to refer to you? What works? What doesn't work? Like just kind of get right?
Yeah.
Because I think I see a lot of the Me Too thing is like, well, this is a way for all of us to just be better at relationships.
Right.
Not just better at relationships with men and women, but just relationships in general.
Yeah.
Because men don't like to be treated like poop. I mean, and that happens
Nobody
a lot
likes
too.
to be treated like
Nobody
poop.
likes that.
So here's the thing. If you are so clueless and you are so inept at communication that you have to find somebody that you work with to sit down and say, so how do I do this?
No, with you in particular.
Yeah, I see.
Like if
you came to me and did that, I would look at you and think, well, you're not as smart as I thought you were. You know what I mean? Because,
so then, what do we tell men? Because I hear this from guys. It's like they don't necessarily, they feel that things have changed where they don't know exactly how to communicate.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I can say I've had the experience being married that sometimes my wife will get upset. I know people couldn't understand that, but she'll get upset, and I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
Right? And so it'll take a while for me to understand what I did, and then to have the empathy to go like, oh, I did that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a bad thing. Because in my mind, like, what did I do?
I just think we're making this way the hell too hard.
Okay. All right.
You treat people with respect.
Treat people with respect.
That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
And if you are so clueless, even if your motive is good, and you come to me and say, I want to have a really great working relationship with you, how should I do that? I'd probably look at you and say, really, Lorne?
Okay.
Treat me with respect.
Yeah.
Don't call me girl.
Yeah.
treat me like the professional that I am.
Sure.
Pretend like I have expertise. Pretend like we're on the same team, right? If somebody came to me and said that, unless I knew them to be serial harassers, bad guys, I would think, okay, so you're just overthinking and you're trying way too hard. And what do you want from me now? Really? That would feel like a manipulative thing to me. And so maybe I'm just way too pessimistic.
No, that's okay. So, so you know the story of, so there was this guy who was a Harvard law student, and he gets an internship at a law place, and he's African American, and his boss now is an African American woman for the summer. And during this summer, he is constantly asking her out on dates, and she is constantly saying, "I don't want to go on a date with you. Stop asking me." This is like in the 90s. He keeps doing it and keeps doing it, and finally she relents. They go out on a date, they get married, and he becomes president of the United States, and that's Barack Obama, right? So that's their story. Barack and Michelle met that way, and now if that happened,
it probably wouldn't happen.
It wouldn't happen or something, right? But that, so like that, and I only brought that up because when I was interviewing,
so that's
Cole,
so I know that there's fact in there.
Ali Cole said to us that, and Ali Cole's the woman who so she said that some companies are doing these policies where they actually have a dating policy at work, where if you want to ask somebody on a date, not in your chain, but somebody sideways to you, you can, but you can only ask them once. And if they say no, you can't ask them again. But they can come back to you at any time, which creates this interesting dynamic. So like that's interesting, right? That like okay, now there's a policy. Like if I wanted to ask somebody out, because people meet at work, a lot of people meet at work, and now they've created this structure.
Yeah. I don't know. I believe that people in their hearts are good and want to do the right thing, and I think you can over legislate. And I think you have to, creating policies and creating rules for a small group that impact everybody, that we have to have these rules because we have some small percentage of our population who are clueless and not great. I'd rather move the not great people out and keep everybody, have all the good people there who know how to operate, who know how to interact, and we can just keep going with the business. It seems punitive to me if we've got a couple of bad actors to legislate all kinds of rules for the bad actors, not for everybody else.
So what are you excited about at this UNLEAH conference?
Changing.
Yeah, no, I mean, we only have a few minutes.
Okay. Well, the UNLEAH conferences are unlike any others in the world, and so I'm just always looking forward to every piece of it. I love interacting with the delegates. They're mostly very senior decision-making kinds of folks, mostly from HR, but also IT, also marketing. Speakers, I think Mark just said, 50% of our speakers are women, mostly very senior. You don't find that kind of gender balance in any other show, anywhere in the world. And our exposition hall is full of fabulous new interesting startups, as well as all kinds of brands that from all over the world. And in this show, the World Show, we've got brands literally from all over the world. We've got attendees from all over the world. We have speakers from all over the world. So this is truly a global event, which that's the other part that I really look forward to.
And you have some new exciting news about your career, the work that you're doing now.
My new, so I have a new relationship.
You're hearing this first? Oh, at least maybe second.
Maybe second. So I've joined the Career Crossroads group. Jerry Crispin and Chris Hoyt have invited Lars Schmidt and I to create a new community. So Career Crossroads has been a talent acquisition community for over 20 years, and Lars and I are starting a talent management / HR community that will get started after the first of the year. So we're really thrilled about it and having a lot of fun.
And what are you hoping to achieve, and what can people do if they want to kind of join the community?
If they want to join the community, they can go to cxr.works and pick talent acquisition, talent management, fill out a form. We'll be in touch shortly. They can reach out to me, China, at cxr.works. I can be happy to fill them in, tell them anything they'd like to know about it. But it's a It's a closed community that meets very frequently on different kinds of topics. Our members come, they send some of their team from time to time, and so the topics that we discuss over a day and a half are served up by the members so that we're meeting the needs of our members.
And what kind of folks should be interested?
Top talent management, top HR operations kind of folks.
And there's a distinction now between talent acquisition and talent management.
So talent acquisition folks belong to the talent acquisition
bringing
community.
people in, and
exactly.
And you're about managing
and we're
them all.
about managing the rest of the HR function, but in particular a focus on talent management once they're an employee.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
It's very fun.
Any other plugs you want to make?
Well, I would just remind folks that Unleashed will be in Vegas in May next year.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And at our new venue, the MGM Grand, and we're really excited, and we hope you'll come.
I gotta say, China, it's always great talking to you. If you don't know China, so follow her. Like, pay attention to what she's saying. She's, one of the sharpest. And it was funny because I spoke to Mark yesterday, and I realized I didn't have any women for the video part, and particularly the video part.
Yeah.
And I asked on the little Facebook community that Lars actually started on Facebook. And I'm like, I'm looking for a powerful woman who'd be great. And someone said China. I'm like, oh my God, of course. Like, I was going to interview you anyway.
Nice. That's very nice.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's.
Well, it's always great to see you.
Angie actually mentioned your name.
Yeah. We'll see Angie here.
Yeah, she's here.
Gonna,
So anyway, I'm glad that you made yourself available.
I'm happy. Always happy to be here.
Thanks so much.
You bet.
So again, like, share, comment. What's the other one? Subscribe. Okay, like, share, comment, subscribe, and thank you, and thanks for watching, and listen to the podcasts, which will be coming out in the next few weeks.